It said
Big Drive Energy live on a Wednesday morning. The FedEx Cup Playoffs are here. We're going to be live every Sunday afternoon.
playoffs.
Playoffs as they go down the stretch. We've got the FedEx St Jude Classic this week. We're going to preview that. We're going to talk about Cam Young. He finally won on the PGA Tour after everybody was out. He reaches out and pulls everyone right back in. We're going to talk about Cam Young's win. We're also going to talk about Davis Thompson because as we get to these playoffs and these next couple of weeks, I'm sure there'll be more moments like this, but really unfortunate scenario for Davis Thompson this past weekend. Ben Griffin just deciding to go a whole round without a driver at Sedgefield. Charley Hull making some interesting comments on the current state of golf and whether or not she watches it. And listening to Charley Hull talk is always a treat. She doesn't even have to say anything of substance. Mitchell's going to react to Happy Gilmore too. I still have not watched it. And we have, as always, on a Wednesday, WTF Wednesday. All right, let's tee it up. Big Drive Energy Wednesday. It's playoff season. Yay, yay.
Do you know what that means? Football is right around the corner.
Football is right around the corner. We've got a Denver Broncos game this Saturday. What's up, everybody? I am at Big Drive Spence. We got Big Drive Mitch coming to you from Denver and New Jersey, coast to coast to Midwest, I should say. This podcast just spanning America. So appreciate you all tuning in. We are part of the Golfer Gang Network. Go check them out. Great golf podcast. We'll do some stuff with them roundtable wise for the Ryder Cup. We also have that coming up soon. So actually, you feel like golf is over when the four majors get over, but then we've got 3 playoff events, really high stakes, obviously going into the Tour Championship. And then we've got the Ryder Cup, which should be a banger this year with all of the news and the Keegan Bradley stuff and him potentially playing and who's going to be on the team and Cam Young finally winning and all that, which we will get into. But first, let's start with how's your week going? My son, shameless plug because we love the man BD. My son is currently watching Break 50 with Bryson in the living room. He's got hand, foot, and mouth, so it's great. Disgusting disease. Like, why the fuck is it named that? I don't know. It's really unfortunate. But so I'm home with him mostly this week, and right now he's hitting golf balls in the living room and watching Breaking 50 with Bryson DeChambeau, and probably against my better judgment as a parent, but he's also it's the one with John Daly. So he's in there locked in on BD and John Daly having a time.
Honestly, that one was probably, I watched some of that one. I haven't watched most of them. I watched the one with 45 and 47 because that was just captivating no matter how you look at it. And let me tell you, I mean, we tweeted about that dude's putting stroke, but it's just unbelievable. Spencer's dogs are barking in the background. He's got a real life fire fest going on right now. But the one with John Daly was probably, I just wanted a little bit more juice out of John. And I'll actually get to that a little bit later in the Happy Gilmore review because I honestly really enjoyed the new Happy Gilmore movie, but I know a lot of people had a lot of hate in their heart about it. But the Bryson Break 50s, like that shit is legend. That's kids are going to grow up and be like, it's going to be like a Tavon Austin like college highlight reel. You know what I mean? Kids are going to be like, have you seen that Break 50? Like college kids are going to sit around and drink beers and watch Bryson's Break 50s and like highlights of golf YouTube. Because that is just kind of what what society is turning into, which is pretty crazy. But what I was going to say is, remember when Rory talked about winning the Tour Championship and how like he kind of held that as an accolade similar to the majors? Like that is so Rory dude, put your dogs outside. I don't know if you can do that or not, but yeah, it looks like he's about to make that move. Rory in the Tour Championship absolutely cracks me up. And we'll kind of get into that a little bit later because Rory is taking a bye week at the FedEx St Jude. And in all honesty, I don't blame him because Memphis is not a favorite tour stop, I wouldn't say, amongst a lot of the players. It's hot as hell. It's humid. I mean, I know the course is beloved on the PGA Tour. I know everybody loves that course, TPC Southwind, but I think the weather, the heat, and they decide, these guys, I mean, it's blasphemy. There's no real great places to play in America in August, but they've got them playing in Memphis, Tennessee, then in Maryland, which Maryland will probably be the best of the three. And then like weather-wise, but then they go to Atlanta in the third week of August. These dudes have just got to be, and all these pictures have been surfacing of Lucas Glover again, just leaking directly out of his asshole. Just his shirt is soaked, his ass is soaked, his crotch is soaked. It is hell on earth for these guys. So I think that is probably why Rory is skipping the St. Jude. But talk about like arrogance to just skip a playoff event where there's a $20 million purse. Tell me you have too much money without telling me you don't have too much money. Like where other places there to point where there's 3 playoff events and this dude just skips one of them. Even Scotty's playing, Scotty has made twice the money that Rory has this year, I'm sure, at least on the golf course, and he's still playing in the shit.
Yeah, well, you sent me this over this morning, so this is from Nuclear Golf, and PGA Tour player director Peter Malnati, which is kind of hilarious. I guess he's a by the people for the people type of scenario. You don't have Scotty Scheffler being the player director talking about how easy it is to win on the PGA Tour every single week. But Peter Malnati said he is, quote, very concerned that Rory McIlroy is able to skip the first playoff event, hinting that a rule change could be on the way in the future to close the loophole. Quote, I think there is stuff in the works, and I'll leave it at that. So interesting stuff because, I don't know how I feel about this. To me, if you're in the top 70 and you want to skip the St. Jude. Now, I'm not defending Rory here. I'm never going to be sitting out here defending Rory McIlroy about anything. But the thing I think should have happened, and maybe it did, you're going to have to clue me in on this. I don't think so, though, is now there's only going to be 69 players in this event. Like if Rory McIlroy is not going to play in this, I think it's ended up being Davis Thompson, which we'll talk about his absolute debacle on 18 this past weekend. I think let number 71 play in this event. If any of the top 70 guys can't play in it, you go 71, then 72, and see if they have a chance to jump into the top 50. Because Rory's taking the risk. He's not going to drop out of the top, 50 and then 30, but he's taking the risk of dropping. No different than if the guy at 49 or 51 this week decided not to play. He's taking the risk of dropping out and not being able to make it to the BMW next weekend. So if they're going to do that and Rory's going to just skip it, or anybody is going to skip it, because there could be a reason, maybe if you're having a kid or something important. I'm not saying Rory has that, but in the general scope of things, if you're looking at it all encompassing of what these players go through, they should know that they're supposed to play these next 3 weeks. Like Rory's had a couple weeks off since the Open Championship. He should kind of be just ready to play unless there's some extenuating circumstances on his personal life. But let number 71 play at that point then. That's just where I stand on the whole debacle.
Well, I mean, that just opens up a whole can of worms, because you could have backdoor handshake deals like, hey, Scotty, you want to take the week off? I'll slide, because it's all guaranteed money in these fields. I don't think
that's what sports are about, bro. Backdoor and backhand deals.
I mean,
that's what sports are built on.
It is funny though, because Matty Schmidt is the last guy in the field, and he is the first guy off tomorrow morning by himself, 7 a.m. tee time by himself. He's probably going to go out and shoot a number. We should probably throw a little action on him, because you go like, I don't know. There's just so much less pressure. It feels like when you play by yourself, you're just kind of, it's you and your caddy. You have no other outside noise. You're just going, out for a fucking loop with your boy. So he could play a good round, but yeah, it is similar. I don't know. It's just an odd thing, and it almost feels like Rory's trying to stick it to the PGA Tour even more. Like he carried their water for these couple years after the whole live debacle and bullshit. And now he's just so out that he's like, I'm not even going to play in one of these playoff events. And it is truly a black eye for the PGA Tour to not have a quote unquote star, one of their stars playing in the playoff event. So it's just kind of a sticking it to the PGA Tour and Jay Monahan. And I mean, really, what is there? I don't know when it's going to stop with Rory, but he's kind of done an all-time heel turn where he went from wanting to be the PGA Tour's poster boy to now realizing that, like, oh, maybe they were just using me. Holy shit. How shocking is that a multi-billion-dollar corporation would use me as a puppet, to as a mouthpiece to tell the general public all this bullshit about how high and mighty the PGA Tour is compared to live. And now I feel like he's just gone in the complete opposite direction, doesn't give a single shit about anything but really himself. And that is the PGA Tour in a nutshell, is you're looking out for yourself constantly. And so, I get it from Rory's perspective, but it's more on the PGA Tour, like, how can you allow this to happen type shit.
Yeah, and not having basically making it mandatory. Well, they kind of tried that with some of the signature events. And the cool thing about some of the signature events is they travel around and go to different spots. So when you have that, you have these, golf fans that don't get they don't get a consistent tournament every single year. So like the BMW we had last year, where Colorado was just yearning for a professional golf tournament, and they got the BMW championship, and all of the top 50 players were there, and it was electric. But it would be kind of lame. I mean, the St. Jude is at TPC Southwind every single year, but you expect, 70 player field is awesome because it's very small, it's tight knit. They're going off in twosomes and singles because this asshole decided not to play, but they're going off in twosomes, and you can really capture golf and see the best players on the PGA Tour throughout the past 3 weeks. And now one of the best, if not the second best, top two, definitely two or maybe three, in Rory McIlroy, just not teeing it up. So pretty unfortunate for the PGA Tour, but Peter Malnati's already ahead of it and talking about it. So hopefully there's some changes, and then you get to a point where it's, everybody's playing in these events and they just plan them like they would a major championship.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it should be.
Yeah, I mean, it's just never going to carry that same weight that one of the four majors carries. You could throw any amount of money at it, and I think there's guys that are very hungry to go out and make more money, but these top guys, you can't, unless there was the top three dudes went into their own threesome and just played 4 days, and the winner walked away with like 25 million. I don't think there's going to be enough money to move the needle for these guys to just get out. And that kind of makes me think back to, do you remember the Shell Wonderful World of Golf back in like the 70s and 80s that they did?
Not, I've heard of it, but I don't think I ever watched any of it.
Dude, it was one of the most electric things. Like, looking back on it, it was so fucking cool. They would take some of the best players. Like, I remember watching one at Pebble Beach with Jack Nicklaus, Lee Trevino, and I want to say either Arnold Palmer or Gary Player. And it's just a televised money game between these three, where they get a dollar amount per hole that they win. They can gamble. They're mic'd up. Like, they did this shit in the 70s and 80s. Where is this now? I feel like that, and this was on like national television. I think Shell sponsored it because they still do reruns on Golf Channel, and it kind of makes you wonder, why has Golf Channel not, and also the Big Break. I mean, the Big Break is one of those things too that, and I know I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent, but I'm just thinking of things that would be some cool non-tour content, for the PGA Tour to do. And apparently the Big Break the Big Break was one of the best golf shows of all time, if not the best golf show. I was tuned into that shit. You and I used to watch that in high school religiously. It was every Monday night. We were tuning into that, and we've talked about it before on the pod, like, because Tony Finau was on it. There's been multiple people, that are now on the PGA Tour that were on it, but just an all-time show. And where am I going with this? I am not 100% sure. I just was thinking about the Shell Wonderful World of Golf, which was fucking awesome. And they played these sick courses and it was just a big money game. But that's like stuff that Rory and Scotty and these guys need to do more of. If the PGA Tour was smart, they would make some sort of move like that to do some extracurricular shit outside of the PGA Tour. But I guess when you schedule 35 tour events a year, you don't have much time to do anything else. So it kind of makes sense that these guys want their time off, when they're not playing.
Well, they also have the matches. Like they've been doing some of those with other professional athletes and the Aaron Rodgers and guys like that. So I think that's kind of in the same realm and not necessarily as, hand to hand old school cash betting, like you would say, but like it's mic'd up and they do a lot of cool stuff with that. So I think they're on the right track with some of those events, but yeah, just bringing back some of the classics and getting maybe the older crowd that used to watch that wonderful world of golf back into some of these fun events that are outside of just watching the PGA Tour every single week. All right, let's.
And let me just say this while we're at it. How has there not been any sort of live versus PGA Tour, either, whether it's competitive and actually means something, or it's just a what would you call it? Not a scrimmage, a friendly or whatever, like non-competitive.
Are you completely forgetting that Brooks and Bryson played against Scotty and Rory?
I'm talking about like
Vegas?
a Ryder Cup. I'm talking like Ryder Cup style, like 12v12, like a multiple day thing. I think that the golf world is just completely whiffing on not doing that. And I mean, who says no? I mean, if you had to pick a side that would say no to that, who do you think it is? The PGA Tour or Live?
Oh, the PGA Tour 100%, because they still think they have this massive TV following, which they do for some events, and they don't want to kind of partner with Live, who's their direct competitor, and give them all of that access and that those level of numbers, because as we've seen, Live being on the USA Today network or whatever the fuck they're actually
it's on FS1 now and
FS1, whatever. But whatever they're on, they clearly don't draw the numbers that the PGA Tour does. So the PGA Tour doesn't want to just hand them all of that viewership. But either whether they streamed it on both platforms or however they wanted to do it, that a 12v12 PGA Tour versus Live Ryder Cup would be probably the most watched event in golf, maybe outside of like the Masters every year, or just majors in general.
Or the Ryder Cup in general, like the actual Ryder Cup. I think it would do just as good in numbers as the actual Ryder Cup, because real golf fans definitely would tune into that shit. Real quick sidebar. I do have to say that FS1 and like Fox Sports, a lot of their daytime TV shows now, I would say, are far superior to ESPN's. Like obviously ESPN has fallen off. It needs to be studied, but I actually now, I don't know if I'm becoming a boomer, but I will actively turn on Fox Sports 1 and watch like the Mark Schlereth. There's a show with Schlereth, and there's a show with like Shady McCoy and those guys. Those talk shows are, in my opinion, a million times better than Get Up and fucking First Take. Like, especially now that Shannon Sharp is out at ESPN, I have no reason to tune into First Take like ever.
Yeah, I was just watching First Take, and actually, as you were saying that, just turned it to The Herd with Colin Cowherd on FS1. So
I might. This might be like the boomer coming out in me, but I do like me some Colin Cowherd. Like the hat backwards analogies, that other than his hate for Iowa football, I do like Colin Cowherd. And let's talk about this real quick, because we are Denver sports fans. He has been pumping the Broncos tires along with a lot of other national media. And how do you feel like that's going to go for us this year? Does it scare the shit out of you?
Terrible. I hate it. I hate everybody talking about how, because going into last year, it was like, oh, the Broncos shouldn't have drafted Bo Nix so early, and Sean Payton's in over his head, and this team's got $60 million in dead cap space with Russell Wilson. What do? Go out and win 10 games and make the playoffs for the first time in 10 years and finally remove themselves from all of these graphics we have to see of longest playoff droughts in the NFL. And, with new ownership, Broncos are kind of getting back to a more storied franchise. That we were out at camp last week, and they're building a whole new addition to the indoor facility that they've got that's 5 or 6 years old. So they're doing a lot there. Ownership is incredible. Obviously, having the Walton Penner Group and Lewis Hamilton and all these high highly popular names just owning the team is electric. But all of this love from national media and Kay Adams and Diane Rossini and blah, 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 blah. Like, I hate it. I don't love it because to me, it just sets up for us somehow going 6-11, which I don't think is going to happen, but it just terrifies me. I'd rather just them kind of let us fly under the radar and go win 10 games again or 11 games, maybe win a playoff game this year, take that next step. But I do not like all the national media attention. I'll be frank about that.
Yeah, I mean, even Diana Rossini talked. I listened to the Bill Simmons pod the other day with Rossini, and they were talking. They had like a 5-minute clip about the Broncos, and I've kind of let myself get back into like when I hear national media talk about the Broncos, I just want to hear it because I want to hear about like good things being said about my team. But she was talking about Bill Parcells back in the day, and that's kind of who taught her. I guess they connected after Parcells retired, and she learned a lot from him. And he always said that the teams that are talked about the most in the preseason are generally the teams that don't have it come regular season and end up flaming out. So they actually mentioned that with the Broncos, and she was like, but I don't think that's the case here. And, you know, fingers crossed. I mean, I don't want to go down too much of a Broncos rabbit hole, but let's talk a little just real quick, fantasy football. How many leagues are you in this year?
Jesus Christ, you are fucking all over the map today. Holy fuck.
I'm just thinking football because I wanted to mention a little football action before, like we're getting into football season before we dive in to like all this PGA Tour stuff because we did talk about it, but we got time today. We got a little extra time. I would say, well, I don't know if you have time. I got a little extra time. I know your kid's over there just running amok in the living room doing his thing, and I can hear him occasionally yelling. But how many leagues are you in this year? Because this has always been a fascinating thing to me. Like, have you dialed it back? Or are you still in like 7 or 8?
I think I'm in 4, I want to say. And 2 of them are with you. Potentially 3 of them are with you, maybe. I'm in one with all of our old work buddies. And then I'm in one with a bunch of my friends from college. And then we're in our brothers league. And then I think I'm in one with my wife's family. And I believe that's all 4. I think
Okay.
I'm in a work league too with my current work people. So 5.
Okay.
But yeah, and my strategy every year is the same. I try to draft the same basic core of players, which in some drafts works out well for me because I'm picking guys that I think are actually being undervalued. And then in other drafts, I maybe reach for the same guys to try to get them on my team. But I'm not a big fan of because when you have so many teams, you got to cheer against your guys in some leagues and then for your guys in some leagues and just hope you score the most points each week. And you always have some shitters out of those 5 teams. There's going to be a few of mine that are like 4 and 12 or whatever the fuck, 4 and 15. It's terrible math. 4 and 13. That's where we're going.
It's because you suck at fantasy football, dude.
No, but then I have some teams. I think I was in the championship in 2 different leagues last year. So I feel pretty good about getting a few teams in there, but it's generally the same core of players. And so I like to stick to that, but I do like having a lot of teams. It just pisses me off when I'm busy on a Sunday morning working my tailgates. And then I end up forgetting to like set a lineup and it's just a whole thing. So I'm trying to stay more on top of it, but I don't know. Ever since betting became a thing, fantasy football just doesn't get me going as much as it used to. And I know you're the big fantasy nerd and you're actually pretty good at it. I hate to admit it, but even though every year I look at your team after draft and like, oh, that team sucks. And then you all of a sudden have 4 running backs that are just tearing it up. But how many fantasy leagues are you in, my boy?
I think I'm going to be in exactly 4. Oh, he's sneezing. I think I'm also going to be in 4. And I actually inherited a team. I am in our Uncle Chief's, well, we call him Chief Roser. He bowed out of this league that they've been in for 17 years, and I got randomly selected because there's 3 new teams or 3 new owners, and you have to inherit these 3 teams because there's 4 keepers on each team, which is pretty badass. And so he did. Aaron Skeletor, our boy, did a random drawing out of these hats to see who got what team. And I got randomly selected to get Chiefs team, which he's in a pretty damn good spot. So let me give you a few of these guys I think I might keep. He has Brian Thomas Jr. He has Brees Hall. He has, who's the other running back? Another very good running back. And then he's also got DK Metcalf. He has Cortland Sutton. Like, I've got some choices to make. He's got some pretty fucking solid guys that I could keep. Who's the other? There's definitely another RB1. Oh my God, I'm losing my mind. I'll have to look at it. But overall, I'm pretty stoked about that league because it's been going for almost 20 years, and I'm kind of the new guy in town, and I'm just want to go in there and show my fantasy prowess, which I think I'm pretty good at, finding value and taking sleepers and all that. But then the other 3 leagues, like I said, 2 are with you, and then I forget what other one I'm in. Maybe the one with Oliver. I don't know if he's doing that again this year, but I just love fantasy football. I think it's so much fun because it's one of those things. It's similar to this PGA Tour one and done that we've been doing. It's something that makes you pay attention, similar to sports betting, but it's a lot less. It's all like taking all futures bets. You know what I mean? You watch the entire season, like all your guys on your team, but you're only, in it for $150 or whatever. And then you have the potential to make a little money at the end of the season, but it is truly like a low risk, high reward type of scenario that really gets you into the entire season. So I know we're probably going to bring back our pick 6 as well, and make our picks on the pod. And I'm stoked for football, man. Like August, this time till December 31st is my peak season. This is my favorite time of the year. Because you have a little bit of summer left, then you roll into fall, best time of the year by far. Then you got Thanksgiving, you got October, which is the best month of the year. You got Halloween, and then you got Christmas, and then you got NBA coming, you got NHL coming. It's like I have been so lost not being able to watch like any sports on TV. It's been I've been just watching golf literally every single round, the entire round, like 8 hours of it. Whenever I'm home, golf is on because that's all that's on right now. So I frankly don't know how the PGA Tour ratings aren't higher. Maybe not everyone's like a crazy sports fanatic like me, but I feel like there's literally nothing else on TV right now.
Yeah, it does feel that way in the summer, and golf really kind of takes center stage in the sports world, unless you're a big baseball fan. But it's slowly creeping out of golf season, and it's a bit more about golf though, and talk about Cam Young winning a PGA Tour event in 2025. He is one of the most curious cases in recent golf history, bar none, because he's one of the most talented players ever. Not ever. That's getting a little crazy. In the current PGA Tour, like if you had to rank the current PGA Tour players by just total talent of hitting the ball and making putts and being able to make different golf shots and just talent-wise, ball striking talent-wise, Cam Young's in the top 5 or 10 on the entire PGA Tour and still hadn't won. And every week people were the amount of money people lost, well, just from the one tweet that you sent me. So if you bet Cam Young every single week to win since he started playing on the PGA Tour, I bet $100, you'd still be down $3,200 on his entire career, even after winning at, I believe, 60-1 this week or 66-1, because he's just that talented and the money constantly rolls in on him every single week. And I will say, I've gotten a little bit out of the golf betting. We're going to have our picks for the FedEx St Jude. So I've got some picks locked in on the DraftKings account for this weekend coming up. So I'll be a little more locked in, but haven't bet a ton since the Open Championship. And Cam Young was always one of those guys that I said, if I'm not on him the first week he wins, I'm going to be a little bummed. And now that it's here, I'm not as bummed out because he just wore me the fuck down. And I was like texting one of our buddies, Tyler, this week. He always texts me, Ziskin always texts me on like Sundays, and we talk a little golf, and he's watching the tournament. And he goes, "You seem like a Cam Young guy, right?" And I think my response was something to the effect of, yeah, I love the dude, but he's just worn me down. He's just worn me down over these past 5 or 6 years that I just have. He's kind of back burner to me. I've kind of forgotten about him and forgotten about caring about him. And even going into Sunday with a 6-shot lead, you feel like he was just going to blow it, going to find a way to lose somehow.
Yeah. I mean, his scorecard on Sunday was actually pretty wild because he had that 6-shot lead going into Sunday, and then he bogeys one, and Echeverria's right there. There's a handful of dudes that were right there, and you're like, holy shit, is this really happening like this early? And then he proceeds to rattle off 4 straight birdies and basically slams the door by the middle of the front 9. Like, there was never really a question. And honestly, I was more, this last week was the first week outside of Scotty Scheffler where I was just more caring about who finished second place, because I had Matt Fitzpatrick in our one and done this week. And he didn't have a great Friday. He was hanging around. Then he shot 6 under on Saturday. So he was at 10. And I'm like, fuck, if he can get it one more low one, just shoot 5 or 6 under, he could possibly finish second place. I think he finished like T6 or something like that. But Cam Young finally just put his foot down and was like, I am going to take this and own this golf course. And Sedgefield is known to be like a shorter, little more old school track where the greens are just insane. I guess I was seeing reports that some of their downhill putts at Sedgefield were stimping over 16. I think just on flat land, they were stimping a 13.5 to a 14. So talk about fucking insanely fast. Like, there was definitely a few times where I was just tracking guys, I was in the car or whatever, tracking guys, and they have 30 feet for birdie. And, on the PGA Tour, average make from 30 feet is like what, 5-7% maybe. But these guys, I would like to see the rate of 3 putts from 30 feet at Sedgefield, because some of the places they put these pins this last week were just absurd. And you've got guys blowing at 5, 6, 7 feet by, and then, you leave yourself a downhiller if you get too aggressive. You're almost breathing on that, like trying to 2-putt from 6 feet because you don't want to blow it by again and have the same exact scenario coming back. So that is just one of those old school, really good courses that I feel like a lot of the tour guys like. And it was almost kind of surprising that Cam Young, I feel like we usually see a real true ball striker. Not Cam Young is a true ball striker, but he's not like a very precision guy. Like, obviously he's more of a bomb and gouge type of dude. And I was just looking at some of his stats and they're actually kind of shocking. But you see like Aaron Rye won it the year before. I know that Webb Simpson's won out there. I think Adam Scott's played well out there. There's guys that you just feel like are very precise distance control wise. Like, this would be a place I feel like Scotty would probably roll at. I mean, there's not a lot of places that Scotty doesn't roll, but it's just one of those old school spots where distance really doesn't matter as much. It's more about where you're hitting it, controlling your distance on the greens, giving yourself uphill looks. So I feel like that was a good win for Cam Young. Obviously, the field wasn't super strong, but I still think this is kind of one of those scenarios similar to like the stock market where Cam Young was kind of, trending down and down and down and down. And, nobody's got eyes on. I mean, there's some sickos that bet him every week. There's people that are riding him no matter what. But now we've seen this little blurb up in the radar and it kind of gets some people's eyes on it. Like, similar to Wyndham Clark a couple years ago, similar to these guys where you see them break through for their first win, and all of a sudden, could he rattle off 3 or 4 wins? Could he? And now I see people saying that he needs to be on the Ryder Cup team, and I just do not agree with that. He sure 1 win at Sedgefield, but there needs to be more emotion coming out of it. And I don't want to just go into the Ryder Cup, but if you saw the clip of Cam Young after he hit the winning putt, there was zero emotion involved. Like, he is truly, people give like Scotty shit, Rory shit for it just being like a day job. And to Cam Young, I think it is more of a day job. Cam Young is like the Nikola Jokic equivalent of PGA Tour players, because there's zero emotion shown. It feels like he couldn't care less. Obviously, Cam Young isn't anywhere near the type of quality of player that Nikola Jokic is, but there's just such a lack of emotion. And even he was walking over to sign his scorecard and everybody was trying to give him high fives. Didn't give a single person a high five. And there was actually this one dude in this like purple hat standing to the left, and he sticks out his hand for knuckles. And Cam Young just walks right by him. And the dude, they get the guy's face on camera, and he just rolls his eyes so hard right after Cam Young walks by and leaves him hanging on the dap. Like, Cam Young just doesn't really I don't know if he really cares that much. And for him to even be in the TGL, like, his personality just isn't there. And I feel like at Bethpage, we need players with personality. So I personally don't have him on that team. But yes, when he gets it going, he's a top 10 talent in the world. Like, just from a ball striking perspective, he can be a machine, tee to green.
Yeah, and I think, part of that emotionless state that he was in at the time of winning this event, I think was more of just relief than excitement, because when you're supposed to win so many events, and he's had a few 54-hole leads and shot 59s before at the Travelers and things like that, where it's all there. When you can't win and people are only talking about how much you can't win, it's got to feel like a giant monkey off his back to finally just win. He was like, could take a deep breath. And there was surprisingly a lot of some hate from people about where he grew up. And I think it's maybe because, I don't know, I can't figure it out, because he seems like the guy that everybody obviously thought was talented, knows is talented, and just couldn't win on the PGA Tour. So usually those guys are more celebrated. But the tweet from Kyle Porter, they did a little blip on the broadcast over to Sleepy Hollow, where, if you guys didn't know, Cam Young grew up at Sleepy Hollow. His dad was the PGA pro there. That's in New York. And it was a picture of like the watch party. And at this watch party, they started a party at the Pool Pavilion bar right at his 1:55 p.m. tee time. $3 drinks for every birdie, free drinks for an eagle, and an open bar for an hour when he wins. And then he goes on to bogey the first hole. Everybody's probably tight-lipped, tight butthole at that point, cheering for him. And then he rattles off 5 birdies in a row and was leading by 9. So that whole place was probably pretty tatered by that point. And then Kyle Porter took a screenshot of it and said, "Cool to see those involved in Cam's hard scrabble upbringing coming together for his first victory." And I feel like a lot of people, like some of the replies, he said it's a joke. But a lot of people's replies were just like, the hard streets of Sleepy Hollow, hard scrabble for fuck's sake. Come on, Kyle, you can't help where you're from, etc. But what it was really playing off of was Cam Young. Some reporter asked him, they said, Cameron, a Ford prep school in the Bronx isn't especially known for producing professional golfers, maybe more basketball players. Can you talk a little bit about maybe an improbable journey from the streets of New York, somewhat to, granted, you went to Wake Forest, but the links of St. Andrews, it doesn't happen every day. And Cam Young's answer, I think the streets of New York is probably a stretch. Fordham Prep is on Fordham University campus. It's beautiful. And I lived at Sleepy Hollow Country Club, where my dad's the head pro. I lived on the lower course out there. I took the train to school, but I also took the train back home to go practice. Might sound a little improbable, but I've been around golf my whole life. That's kind of just what I do. And it is kind of funny when you get, every week on the PGA Tour, when there's a winner that's maybe not a guy that, the Scotties or the Rorys that everybody knows, they always kind of drum up these stories and trying to say that he's from the Bronx of New York when he lives probably on the 17th hole of Sleepy Hollow and his dad's the head pro, which being a head pro isn't the most glamorous job in the world. We've both done it. And
I was
so it's
going to
not like
say, I think that we can both attest that if your dad's a head pro, no matter where it is, you're not making millions of dollars unless you're teaching tour pros. You know what I mean? If he's just a head pro at any club, which Sleepy Hollow is probably one of the most prestigious clubs in the New York area, but it's still, the guy's probably making $150,000, $200,000. And don't get me wrong, that's very, very good money, but it's not, Maverick McNeely's dad is worth billions of dollars. They live in a $70 million house on Pebble Beach. When the fuck do you hear he flies his own plane to golf tournaments? Like, when do you hear them talking about Maverick McNeely's, silver spoon glow up story? Like, honestly, the more that I hear Cam Young talk, I think he would low key be one of the best guys to have a beer with on the PGA Tour. because he's probably that real dry, like witty dude that probably his boys probably love him. He probably talks great shit. He's probably just like that dude that is so sick of the pageantry of the PGA Tour and just wants to go out there and play golf. And he is also, it is actively funny to me that him and Peter Malnati, ironically enough, are two dudes that are sponsored by the MLB. Like, why does, in what other world can you be sponsored by another sport, like another professional sports organization or sports league for that matter? Like, it is just the weirdest thing to see him walking around with an MLB hat on. And he truly does feel like he is really the only guy, and maybe it's the MLB logo thing that kind of infers this, but he is the only dude on the PGA Tour where I'm like, that looks like a baseball player. Like, just his build, his lettuce coming out of the back of his hat. I'm like, this dude could be the third baseman on the fucking San Francisco Giants or something. You know what I mean? He does not look like a golfer to me, but I bet he is low key one of the most fun dudes, not to other PGA Tour guys. He probably doesn't hang around a lot of circles on the PGA Tour, but I bet his boys back home in New York and a lot of his like country club buddies, I bet they have a fucking ball.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And they, just his demeanor, I love. He's like a little more gruff, kind of Scotty Scheffler. It seems like the emotionless or less emotion than you would see from some PGA Tour players. But also, like you mentioned, doesn't really look like a PGA Tour player. He's got the MLB up here on his collar of his shirt and just hits the ball a long way. He kind of feels like an old school golfer, just like a grinded out type of guy, get it around, hat coming out of he's like your, 35-year-old that's playing to a 2 handicap at your local club where you're like, this guy's seen some shit, but he gets it around, and fucking obviously Cam's just super talented. I also want to talk about a few other things from Sedgefield this weekend. And we mentioned earlier, one of the biggest stories was of Davis Thompson. Of course, finished 71st on the official top 70 list. And really, I was just looking at this. 70 to 80 is pretty strong, I feel like. So we've got 71 to 80, I should say. We've got Davis Thompson at 71, Gary Woodland at 72, Nikolai Højgaard, Ben On, Keith Mitchell, Christian Bezuidenhout, Mark Hubbard, Kevin Roy, Alex Smalley, and then Eric Cole at 80, who hasn't had the year, obviously, that he had the past couple of years, but kind of insane to see those guys that all missed out. But Davis Thompson, by far the most heartbreaking, because I want to say it was on 14 or 15. And what's really fun about these PGA Tour events is, especially this past week at Sedgefield and then these next upcoming weeks with, exactly how many players are moving on, watching the number move as they go. And the PGA Tour does actually a pretty good job of the graphics of, on hole 1, they start at 74th place and then they move up to 71 and then they move back down to 72 with a bogey, move up to 69 with a birdie, just kind of moves all around. But I believe he made like a 40 or 50 footer for birdie on sometime on the back 9 to get himself into the top 70, and then ends up 3-whacking the last hole, the 72nd hole of the event, to drop himself just out of the top 70. And while that's a great story for aforementioned Matty Schmid, a guy like Davis Thompson, you just have to be sick to your stomach about finishing that way and costing yourself not only a potential, like he's still going to have his tour card next year, but costing yourself a chance at moving up in the playoffs and playing 3 more weeks and now having to go to the fall series and all of those kind of opportunities that you miss by 1 3-putt.
Yeah, I mean, it is like a devastating thing. And to watch him do it, it was almost kind of funny because, I want to separate the art from the artist here, but I have heard he's like one of the biggest dickheads on the PGA Tour. And I would say Davis Thompson's got a top 5 punchable face out there as well. He just always has like a scowl. He never looks like he's happy. And even when he's smiling, it looks like it's like this evil smile. He just doesn't look very genuine to me whatsoever. He looks very like Southern asshole type of dude. But the first putt he hit wasn't even, it kind of scared the hole, but it was like 8 or 9 feet by, like it wasn't even close. And then the second putt he hit really wasn't close either. It didn't even touch the hole. So I can only imagine for him, it was a devastating thing. Obviously to miss the playoffs is huge. When you're in that point of your PGA Tour career, you're not going to see guys like Davis Thompson skipping the FedEx St Jude. Obviously, it's a joke because he didn't even make it there. But guys like that, to the opportunity to play for $20 million, that's basically you're getting into 3 signature events. If you can qualify for each one, you're guaranteeing yourself some sort. I think they're no cut events. I think it's just where you rank at the end of, each one. So I think they all make money. If you make the FedEx Cup playoffs, you're making money, even if you finish DFL. But I actually want to go in a little bit of a different direction because you mentioned Mark Hubbard, and we've had him on the pod. He's just an all-time legendary, like mid-level tour pro that never gets talked about and is out making a couple $1,000,000 a year. He was so close to getting his tour card, and I feel like every week, not every week, but on like at the Rocket Mortgage, at the 3M, I feel like he's had so many really solid weeks, and I have no idea how he's not in the top 70. And I was like, dude, it feels like this guy just is one bad round a week away from being, a top 30, top 40 guy on the PGA Tour. And I actually just looked up the stats, and this is vindicating exactly what I thought. Mark Hubbard's first round scoring average is ranked 80th on tour. His second round scoring average is ranked 35th on tour. His fourth round scoring average is ranked 31st on tour. Now, guess what his third round scoring average is ranked on the PGA Tour?
110th.
125th. So he is the Saturday.
Not a big Saturday guy. Saturdays are for the boys, not for golf, apparently.
Maybe he goes out and has a few too many pops when he makes the cut, because, I mean, this year he made 16 cuts in 24 events. Like, I feel like that's kind of hard to not make the top 70 on the PGA Tour when you make 2/3 of the cuts. And he only ended up making, only is a relative term, but he ended up making $1.65 million this year, and he made 16 cuts. So that is, that feels a little bit low. But I hope that Hubs next year can turn around these Saturday rounds, because he got it going again on Sunday. He finished T3 at Sedgefield, and I was like, how did he get? I think he started Saturday at 12 under, and then wasn't really keeping track that much, and then he starts Sunday at 8 under. I'm like, the dude fucking, all these guys are making moves on Saturday shooting 5, 6 under, and he's going 4 in the opposite direction, and then still ends up finishing T3. Like, he even shoots, a couple under on Saturday. He's probably one of the only guys that has a legit shot at catching Cam Young. And that's kind of like a sliding doors moment, or a butterfly effect. If he shoots a couple under on Saturday and is in the final group, then does he have that great round on Sunday? But I'm just really hoping that Hubs can turn around those Saturday rounds, because I would love to see him. Like, he is truly electric to watch. He's a funny dude. And I would just love to see him competing inside of the top 70 and getting into the playoffs. Real quick, I want to mention this because we have not talked about this. Yep, Brian Windhorse fingers. And I don't know why. I was thinking Cam Young, and then I was thinking Robert Garrigus. I know that's an old poll for anybody that has watched golf for 15 years. He was probably the longest player on tour in like 2009. Just something that came to the top of my head. But remember when he used to putt with like a 28-inch putter?
No, I don't remember that, but I know that one guy on the DP World Tour went pretty viral this past week, putting with the short flat stick. I would love that for my 4-footers. Dude,
he puts with an 18-inch putter, which is the shortest possible putter you can use by regulation. And the guy was there's videos of him making 30-footers. Like, why haven't more people done this? You go to the broomstick. I personally, I know I'm a shorter guy, relatively speaking, but I love like bearing down and really getting low on a 4 to 5 footer. You fucking choke down to the metal on that puppy, and you just feel like you have so much more control. Why have more guys that have the yips or whatever, that everybody goes long? Why haven't more guys gone short? Like, could this be the beginning of a fad of super short putters? Because I remember when I fucked up that one Odyssey putter and I cut it down to like 27 inches, and I was like bent over like Michelle Wee. I feel like I caught a ton of shit for that. And I will say it is pretty hard on lag putts. Like, imagine you got a 60 footer and you got 18 inches in your hand. Not familiar with that either, but it has got to be very hard to get the speed correct when you have that short of a putter on that long of putts. But inside 5 feet, I feel like I would be fucking auto. You just are standing directly over it. It almost feels like a cheat code.
Maybe we could create a putter and make it formable to the USGA, where it's like one of those like scooters where it has the 3 little dots, and then you can take the grip
Extendo
and
putter.
yeah, you can extend it up to like 36 inches, and then it has like a 24 and an 18, and maybe we'll create something like that because I feel like I would from 6 feet and out, I'd probably want a little bit longer putter, but anything inside of 6 feet, I'd be down taking it all the way down to fucking 18 inches and just rolling it in.
Oh, 100%. Well, and to bring this full circle, just to let you know how my mind works, have you ever seen Matty Schmid putt?
No.
Because he's a broomstick dude, and I've never seen somebody more visibly anchor their putter and never get penalized for it. The dude's clearly got it stuck straight into his chest, and maybe this first round at the St. Jude will bring that to light because he's playing by himself. He's the first guy off. But I swear to God, every time I watch that guy putt, his left hand is fucking in his clavicle, just stuck there. I'm like, that is in no fucking country is that legal in professional golf. But he just somehow keeps getting away with it. So, yeah, I would prefer short putter over long putter any day of the week. Probably more of my stature, but it truly does feel like a cheat code. You go short putter.
Yeah, I go short putter, and apparently a cheat code this past week for Ben Griffin was to go no driver. We've got a little quick snippet from Ben Griffin's interview after his round on why he didn't hit driver once in, I believe, Saturday's round at Sedgefield.
Let's talk strategy. You use driver only once out there today. Why did you take the driver out of your hand?
The wind was really challenging out there. It was swirling a lot. It was supposed to be from the southwest, and it felt like it was a new direction every like 2 or 3 holes. Because of that, I knew driver on a lot of these holes to kind of get above the tree line, and it's obviously a tighter golf course, and it's more of a position golf course. And I felt like the risk wasn't worth the reward on a lot of the par 4s, hitting it off the tee. Even the par 5, like 15, driver was bringing that bunker into play. I hit 3-wood off the tee. I still have 4-iron in that par 5. So, fortunately for me, I'm hitting my 3-wood pretty far too. It's going about 300 yards, so I can take advantage of the fact that I don't have to hit driver on every hole. But yeah, usually in most years I probably hit 5, 6, 7 drivers on a round. And today, for some reason, the way the pins were located and kind of the numbers I wanted into the greens, felt like I didn't need to hit driver on a lot of holes. And only had the 1 bogey on 17, so obviously it wasn't too bad of a strategy, but need to be a little bit more aggressive tomorrow.
And that's just interesting from his perspective and the golf perspective in general, because I remember back in our days of high school, I was trying to like hone my game in, so I played an entire round from the tips, just 9 holes with just irons, didn't allow myself to use a driver, even hybrid, and so I was hitting believe I had a 4 or 5 iron in the bag off the tees on par 5s, and I shot even par. And it's just the intricacies of golf to where it doesn't feel like it feels like it's going to hurt you a ton, but then you actually go play. And just like when I played in Mexico this past May, my driver got snapped on the way down there and I'm hitting hybrid, I was still 1 under on the par 5s throughout that entire course. I won't say how many over I was on the other holes, but on the par 5s, I was 1 under in 4 of them, hitting hybrid off the tee. So it kind of makes you think, and it's tough because it's so fun to hit driver, and when you hit it really good and you have 40 yards into a hole or 60 yards in, you can flip a wedge up there. You feel like you got a really good shot at making birdie. But for a PGA Tour player to go an entire round without a driver in 2025 seems like complete blasphemy.
Yeah, and I mean, I think all statistics would point Ben Griffin in the other direction, but that is kind of the beauty of golf. That is the beauty of all these sports and all these sports analysts, nerds out there that have their spreadsheets and their numbers. And this gives you the best probability here and all these stat heads. Like at the end of the day, it comes down to feel for a guy. And if he feels like he's striping 3-wood and he's hitting it much straighter than driver, and tour level guys, they're still getting 3-wood. I'm sure as he's still hitting 3-wood 260, 270. So he's getting it out there with plenty of distance. And if he feels like it's putting him in a better position to, make a number from the fairway, then I don't blame the guy. But I know that there's a lot of people that would disagree with that. And I personally don't have that luxury. I have to hit driver pretty much everywhere I can just to try to give myself more looks at, making a birdie or getting on a par 5 and 2. But to have that kind of champagne problem of, I don't feel like I can hit driver because it goes too high and too far. I don't think there's a lot of guys that can relate to that. So, and I will say that we'll get into the FedEx St Jude, but Sedgefield and TPC Southwind are relatively similar in the fact of it feels like the same kind of player wins there. Like, I think we've seen Lucas Glover win at Sedgefield, and I think, we've obviously also seen him win at TPC Southwind. It's just a very much a ball strikers golf course where you got to control your distance, you got to hit numbers, and you got to make a few putts. But it's those golf courses are great for the PGA Tour. We don't need 1,000. And this kind of gets into Charley Hull's comments. We don't need any more 8,000-yard golf courses where you can hit it all over God's green earth and just go find it and hit it again. Like there has to be some sort of precision out there on the LPGA Tour, the PGA Tour, you name it. They have to have a good mix of these courses in with the bomb and gouge fucking 8,000, 7,600 yard golf courses.
100%. So that leads us into Charley Hull. We got a little clip here of Charley Hull talking about if she watches current golf and what the current state of golf is like as a product compared to back in like the 70s, 80s.
Could you imagine yourself in the late 1860s playing golf with little feathery balls and things like that?
I'd love that. I think it would be so much fun. I think to be fair, I think golf back 20, 30 years ago, like say 19 up to like 2000s, it was more of an art. Like the players, like even the men would have to hit draws and fades to stop it in. But I think where now it's become more of a power game, and where it's become the technology's advanced so much, everyone just can hit it straight and far, and it's kind of taken the art away from it. Like whenever I watch golf, I watch, Shell's Wonderful World of Golf and all that lot, or like who won the British Open in like 1970s and that. I found it way more interesting back then. Like I wouldn't watch golf now really.
So interesting to hear from her.
That's my girl right there. Shell's Wonderful World of Golf. I just love Charley Hull even more now. That shit fires me up.
100%. I could listen to her talk anytime. But
was she talking? Is that?
Oh, she said something. No. I think. Do you think though? Like, do you think that's different now? The LPGA Tour is very different than the PGA Tour in terms of most of the LPGA Tour is people that were born in America, but they're not American. That's kind of fucked up to say. How do I say this properly? They're not like.
There's not a lot of American players for American fans to relate to on the LPGA Tour.
Correct. And so does Charley Hull being from across the pond, does that change you? Do you think that changes her view of the game versus a girl growing up in Texas or Colorado and how the game is played from, American golf, if you will? Do you think it's a little different for her because she is from Europe and not from America?
Yeah. I mean, I think in general, Europeans view golf in a different way. They grew up with Seve Ballesteros. They grew up with these dudes that were famous for getting up and down out of a paper bag, for working balls right and left, and really, truly, like, I know it sounds corny, but the game was more artistic then. And I still think that a lot of Europeans view the game as that, and this American version of golf, it's similar to like everything else. It's just bigger and louder and not as, creative, I guess you could say. It's our golf is like the American suburbs. It just is fucking boring and efficient, and it's there and it makes money, but it's nothing like spectacular to look at. You know what I mean? And I honestly do feel the exact same way. And we talk golf all the time and talk on a golf podcast, but I would have loved to have watched, golf back in the 80s and the 90s and watch these guys really have to hit numbers and carve a 5-iron around a tree. And how rare is it anymore to see a guy on a par 4 on the PGA Tour with long iron in his hand on the approach shot? It is truly just really not a thing. Like,
Other than like the Brian Harmons and guys that just don't hit it
Yeah.
out of their own shadow, it's not. Yeah, it's not something that you're used to seeing. Like,
yeah,
it's driver wedge, driver pitching wedge, driver 9-iron, par 5s,
Yeah.
or even driver 4 or 5 iron, 7-iron. Like, it's just insane how distance has kind of taken over the game. And then, as you said, with the whole Ben Griffin scenario, the stats bore that out and help show that makes golf easier, if you will. If you can hit driver, for the further you hit it, the closer you are to the green, the better shot you have of getting it on the green, the better shot you have of getting it closer to the hole, better shot you have of birdie. All of those stats, and it's not saying it's ruining the game, but it's just different. Like, golf is different now than it was 40 years ago, and most sports are kind of like that. But I feel like golf in general, you can't change the equipment that much in football. I mean, they went from leather helmets to legit helmets, and they have shoulder pads and all this stuff. But like in other sports, the torpedo bats were a thing a little bit this year. And in baseball, like it's borderline, like if you related it to baseball, it's borderline taking wood bats and allowing the MLB players to use metal bats. That's essentially what technology's done for the game of golf over the past 40-ish, 50 years.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And the more you think about like the ball rollback, I was so against it, but now I honestly have kind of turned heel. And I think not turned heel, just changed my opinion on the rollback situation. But the only tough thing is with the ball rollback is it's obviously the old saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I've heard that rolling back the ball, it only and I guess it kind of makes sense in my dumb pea brain head that rolling the ball back would only hurt the shorter players more because it creates more of a gap in speed and distance. Because I don't need to extrapolate out all the fucking math for you, but I think it would end up hurting shorter players even more because they're going to hit it much shorter. And the percentage that the big guys are going to hit it shorter is probably around the same, but they're losing a little bit more, but they still have such an advantage distance wise that no matter what you do, it's still going to, the longer players are always going to have the advantage. Like this one guy I've been teaching now for the last like month and a half. He's my fucking boy. I really do enjoy this guy. And he's like in his mid 30s, just pretty athletic dude, like takes care of his body. But he came to me and he was, slicing at 60, 70, 80 yards. We straightened that out. We got everything in line there. And now he feels like his game has improved a bunch. But we were just on the TrackMan last night. His driver club head speed is 123 miles an hour. And he's just a run of the mill dude. Yeah. In his I was telling him, and I don't think he understood the magnitude of it, but I'm like, he had these driver numbers that his path was like 2 degrees left. His club face was 1 degree open. And his driver, he's got an old school Callaway XR, like from probably 7 or 8 years ago with like a stiff shaft that doesn't really feel stiff. And he was hitting it 290 yards with like 4,600 revs of spin. And I'm like, dude, I don't think you understand. Like, so his next step now, I'm gonna try to get him set up with a new Callaway driver with an extra stiff shaft in it. But I'm like, there is probably half of the PGA Tour that would pay you $1 million for those driver numbers. Like, and I'm not shitting you. It's the people who hit it the longest have the highest ceiling, no matter how you slice it. And I was like, I know this sounds dumb because I'm teaching you and you're, trying to break 90 right now, which is kind of insane. But I'm like, you have a higher ceiling technically in this game than I do, and you don't have necessarily, he's got a family, he's got kids, he's got a job and shit. He may never reach anywhere near that potential, but he's got that ability strictly because of how hard he hits it. He's hitting 7-iron 190 yards at sea level. That is just something that you do not fucking see. And there's some people that are built with that kind of speed, and it's fucking, it truly, like, even though I'm teaching him and he's paying me, I sit back and I'm just like, I don't think you understand the magnitude of how good these numbers are and how insane this shit is. And I was thinking about that because I wanted to talk about that on the pod as well. But the dudes who swing it faster are always going to have the advantage. That is just golf in general. So maybe I just convinced myself they don't need to roll back the ball, because no matter what, what you need to do is make golf courses hard again. You need to fucking keep the trees on the golf courses. Look at, I mean, these couple events at Sedgefield and TPC Southwind, and you go to Hilton Head. Those are golf courses where it truly does minimize the advantage for the longer players, because they still have to hit the fairways. They still have to keep it on this side of the fairway. They still have to, hit this side of the green. And I think there's just too many golf courses. I think that is where we've gone wrong, is the architecture of golf courses have just gone straight down the toilet.
Yeah, instead of defending the distance with trees or placed bunkers or things like that, they're defending the distance with just, hey, let's add, 5 different tee boxes that are 100 yards back and further up, and further into the trees, where guys can hit it in the same spot they would from up here as a normal amateur would hit it. It's just taking, and then they're normal amateurs hitting, 7-iron from 160, 165, and a PGA Tour pro sometimes are pulling out gap wedge from that same distance. So, it's flattening the field, but instead of adding more distance to these courses, let's keep the trees. I think we showed it a couple of weeks ago, but the difference of the Open, was it the Open Championship golf course maybe, or maybe the US Open, one of the golf courses they played, where it looks like a completely different golf course from the 1970s or 80s to now, because they just took a bunch of trees out and let these guys just bomb it over, X dog leg or do whatever they wanted to do, versus defending with well-placed bunkers and runouts and thicker rough, and it's just playing to the amateur side. But also, if you're hosting a PGA Tour event, I hope, those courses can just be better. Just be better golf courses.
100%.
Talking about being better, I have not watched it, so I'm going to give you the floor. Just give me your quick minute rundown on the Happy Gilmore 2, because I am going to watch it, so no spoilers. But just give me a quick rundown. It's gotten a lot of hate on Twitter, or X, the everything app, but I feel like a sequel of almost anything is never going to be as good. But there is a lot of star power in it. I mean, Adam Sandler went all out, put his own wife in it, his own kids. So from what I've heard, it's actually a decent movie. But when it's being compared to the original Happy Gilmore, I think you're kind of starting, 10 yards behind in a race already.
Yeah, I mean, it was like when they put out like the second Sandlot, or any of those classics from the 80s or 90s, and then they get remade. It never feels like it's going to have that, it's not the original. It's like the stepdad. You can come in, you can be cool, but you're never going to be the real thing, unfortunately. But I honestly thought it was funny. Like, there was a few parts that I legitimately laughed out loud at. So I thought it was a very good movie. Everyone, that is a top 5 least favorite person of mine, is people that watch movies and all of a sudden they're a fucking Rotten Tomatoes movie. It's right up there with restaurant fucking reviewers. Like, people just somehow think that they're the authority on what's a good movie and what's not. I honestly enjoyed Adam Sandler in that movie. He does, like, they show him like being an alcoholic, because I don't want to get into it, but and the John Daly parts are fucking hilarious. JD is a legend in that. And he's kind of in the entire movie. He's one of the few cameos that's not really a cameo. He's kind of there the whole time. But I mean, there was a few parts that I wasn't a huge fan of, but overall I thought it was fucking hilarious. Like, I'm sure their budget was huge for this thing. They obviously paid hundreds of famous people to be in it, but I just don't understand all the hate for it. I really did enjoy it, and I would watch it again. I mean, I will say the golf part of it was probably the worst part, but obviously so was the fucking first Happy Gilmore. This dude is standing in a batting cage, taking baseballs off the chest, getting ready for next year's hockey practice, and all of a sudden he's on the PGA Tour. Like, the golf part is not the part of the movie that is supposed, golf is just a sideshow of the movie. So people getting pissed off about the golf aspect of it and whatever, it was just people are think a little bit too much of their opinion, in my opinion. Let's put it that way.
Oh yeah, people love to tout themselves as
smell their own farts, basically.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with having your opinion and saying I didn't like the movie, but going out and saying that was a bad movie is just a different way to put it. But it's not. It's acting like you're the authority on that topic. I'm actually excited to watch it. I think I have a mostly free night this evening and Friday evening, so I think I'll sit down and see if Sawyer wants to watch. Maybe if he sees some golf swings, he'll be pretty dialed into it. He somehow has in the living room changed the show to Trash Truck. He found Netflix somehow, got off of YouTube and changed it to Trash Truck, and then turned the volume way too high. So I had to go in there and remedy that situation. But all right, before we get to well, no, I guess let's just hop into the St. Jude Classic, which is funny that it's now a playoff event, because I feel like it was always kind of just one of those. I don't know when it changed to a playoff event, maybe 3-4 years ago, down in Memphis, Tennessee, TPC Southwind, one of the better golf courses on tour. Kind of ironic that it's in Memphis, Tennessee. But first playoff event, top 70 players. As you know, the top 50 will move on to next week's championship. But let's do a little preview of the golf course down at TPC Southwind, and then we'll give our big bet energy picks. And remember, if you're watching this live show on a Wednesday or whenever you're watching it, we'll be back live on Sunday. We'll see when the tee times are. But as the leaders are coming down the stretch on Sunday afternoon at this playoff event, we'll be live for that, kind of reacting to it as we watch it. Hopefully it's an intense tournament. We've gotten kind of a few stinkers the last couple of live Sunday shows we've done. That's a tongue twister. But let's talk a little bit about TPC Southwind and then get into our picks.
Yeah, for sure. I was actually just looking at the weather forecast in Memphis, because I think that definitely has something to do with it. And I think this is one of those events where guys are actually going to have to fight the heat, because heat can like take down your golf game, at least in my humble opinion. Because I've been taken out by the heat before. It's fucking like you're battling Muhammad Ali out there, basically. But so Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all highs of 91 or 92. And it says today it's 82 right now, and it says it feels like 88 because of the humidity, and it's not even noon yet. So I assume once it gets up into the 91, 92, it's probably going to feel more like 100 degrees out there for these guys, which is just brutal. That southern heat, especially if you have you pray for wind on these days. I think these guys would prefer to have some wind, just to have a little airflow out there, because that humidity is absolutely brutal. But this golf course, quick rundown, it's 72, a little over 7,200 yards, par 70, which is a little lame. But let's see here. The par, there's one par 5 on the front nine. It sounds like there's only 2 5s. Or it sounds like there's 2 par 5s, and one is 580 yards. The other one is 530 yards. So the finishing sequence at this course kind of looks like it could have some fireworks, relatively speaking, because you have 15, which is 395, pretty short par 4, relatively speaking, for those guys out on tour. And then you've got a 530-yard par 5 16th. And then you go to 17, and it's a 500-yard par 4. And then 18 is a 450-yard par 4. So a couple of hard finishers, but a couple holes before that, you feel like you can make a couple birdies. This is truly just a precision golf course. Not super long holes, pretty narrow greens. I actually played with a dude years ago that Monday qualified for the FedEx St. Jude before it was a signature event, obviously like 20 years ago. And he said, I've never played a harder golf course in my life. Like, he said these pins were just in fucking impossible spots. They trick this place up. They make it so hard. And that's what you got to do when you're 7,200 yard golf course, in 2025. So I think it is going to be challenging, but it is a true ball strikers golf course. There's a lot of water hazards out there, quite a bit, that they're going to be dealing with. I want to say, 18, there's water up the entire left side of the golf course. So I think, was it Hideki that won it here last year? It was Hideki. And then the year before that was Lucas Glover.
I believe that is correct. Yes.
Yeah, so it's definitely not your typical bomb it out there. And realistically, I mean, every course fits Scotty, but this is truly like a Scotty golf course, and it's more just like a battle for second place. But let's get into our picks because I want to hear who you got. And then there's a few guys on the cutting room floor that I could greatly regret, so I just want to say their names.
All right, we are going to get into our Big Bet Energy picks for the week. Playoffs are here for the PGA Tour. And here's what we've got. We've got a beauty. I don't know why I'm doing this, really. I'm taking Elmer's Glue, Patrick Cantlay, to win this tournament. He's had a few decent finishes here. It feels like he's had a really quiet year on tour. He still probably will be in the Ryder Cup, maybe. I don't know, maybe not.
Another guy that just should not be on that team.
Yeah, but he's plus 3,500 to win it this week. Russell Henley, a guy that I've rode a few times this year to no avail, so I'm hopping back on the Russell Henley horse. He's plus 450 to top 5. Obviously, as you guys see these odds, and you've seen odds for tournaments in the past, with only 70 players, the odds are pretty slim pickings. You're not getting great odds on a lot of players to top 5 or top 10. You're still getting good odds on them to win because the fields are so stacked. But I think Russell Henley, like you said, it's precision golf course. He's just a grinder. I don't expect him to be even in the conversation like Friday night. He'll be like 10 shots back of the leader, but then he'll grind out a 66 on Saturday and like a 65 on Sunday. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, he's done. And there's like 10, 20 players left on the course. And he's like, oh, fucking Russell Henley up there in the top 5. So that's what I've got this week. Patrick Cantlay to win it plus 3,500. Russell Henley to top 5 at plus 450.
All right. I like that. I'm rolling with Viktor Hovland this week. I really do think that this is a course that suits him. He finished tied for second here last year with Xander Schauffele, who I was in between these two dudes, picking them in my one and done. But I think Victor has a week this week. He loves this golf course. Although I will say the majority of the holes out here, I think it's not a very straight golf course. There's plenty of dog legs throughout. I don't think there's hardly a single par 4 that's like straight away, or maybe like one or two of them. But Viktor Hovland, the only thing working against him is he is a strict fader of the golf ball. But other than that, he's played well here. He finished like T13 2 years ago. So I feel really good about where Victor's at. He won this year down in Tampa at the event that I was at. That is one of the ball strikers golf courses on the PGA Tour as well. I would actually say that these two courses are fairly similar. The Copperhead course at Innisbrook and this course at the FedEx St Jude. And he played his college golf at Oklahoma. He's used to that fucking crazy heat in the middle of the summer. Oklahoma State, in the state of Oklahoma. But I think he's kind of a guy that'll be able to handle the heat and hopefully outlast the field, because that is my guy that I am rolling with. And then I've got to top 10, I've got Sam Stevens, kind of a off the beaten path type of pick, but plus 500 to top 10. He's he's 53rd in total strokes gained. His approach game is really the only aspect of his game that is not very strong, but he's 37th in strokes gained off the tee, and he's top 30 in scrambling. And if you're going to miss greens out here, you got to get it up and down. He's been one of the best ball strikers that nobody's talked about on the PGA Tour now for multiple years. And he's from Tennessee. So I think he definitely has a little bit of that advantage, knowing the humidity playing out in it. I think people do truly underestimate like the mental battle that it takes to play in this kind of heat. So I do expect Sam Stevens to have a solid week. So he'll probably miss the cut, finish DFL. Well, there's no cut, but
I want you to give me some of your cutting room floor guys, because I'm looking at just the top, guys from 51 to 70 right now. And there's a lot of big names on there, and those guys like got to get going. It's different than a normal golf tournament where you obviously show up and you're trying to win, but this is more of NCAA March Madness style for especially these guys. They're just trying to survive and advance. So Chris Kirk's in there at 61, Tony Finau at 60, Ricky Fowler 64, Eric Van Rooyen down at 68, Cam Davis 69, Emiliano Grillo at 67, Max Grieserman's won this year. He's at 57. Aaron Rye. Kurt Kitayama's out of just won 2 weeks ago and is out of the top 50. JT Poston sitting there at 51. So just a lot of guys in that 51 to 70. Steven Yeager's won. Mackenzie Hughes has won. Like, there's a lot of talent that's trying to catch up to, the guys I mean, Xander Schauffele at 42 is insane. Matt Fitzpatrick at 41, Wyndham Clark at 49, Spieth at 48. So there's a lot of guys on that bubble that, the guys in the bubble in the top 50 are just hanging on, but the guys from 51 to 70 got to get it going and got to put a couple low ones out there. They can't just plot I think it's a little more aggressive for those guys coming up this year or this week specifically versus a normal tour event where they're trying to win, but if you don't have it, you got to kind of keep being aggressive versus like, oh, I'm just going to try to make the cut or I'm just going to do this. Like they have to go.
Yeah, exactly. Like hungry dogs always run faster. And that's why we are going to see some guys, jump into that top 50 and we're going to see some guys drop out. So it'll really kind of show us who's got the stones this week. But Wyndham Clark is a dude that at 49, I feel like could have a good week, although his game really isn't suited for this golf course, but he hits it super long. So length is always going to help you out a little bit. He is a pretty strict fader of the ball, I would say, especially off the tee. So I don't know if that's going to benefit him out here. But being at 49, I think coming from the place where he was a top 5 American player in the world, he had won the US Open, he was on the Ryder Cup team, all this shit, to now being, not lower level, but back kind of towards the middle of the pack, I think. And his game has kind of been trending in the right direction. So I could see Wyndham making a run. See, everybody's on Xander Schauffele this week. And I personally think that I'm on Schauffele next week. And that's maybe just my own bias. But next week they're playing a 7,600 yard course, more of a bombers type golf course. And if you had to, Xander's a pretty accurate dude, but overall I would take him on a longer course any day of the week versus the field relative to a shorter, more precision course. So that is ultimately why I landed with Hovland, but I think Xander could have a good week. And like you said, dude, it's some of those wily ball strikers, like Steven Yeager is an older guy that just, gets it around, gets it in the hole.
Chris Kirk to me is like, he's been in the top 10 of almost every event. It feels like the last 6 weeks. Yeah. So it's kind of crazy that he was just way, way down the list and kind of earned his way into the top 70, but a guy that's playing pretty good golf that you could see earning his way all the way. I mean, Chris Kirk playing in the Tour Championship wouldn't surprise me at all, even starting out in just the top 70, not the top 50.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, even to add on top of that, he's one of the strict drawers of the golf ball out there. So it feels like he's got a little bit of advantage with all those right to left holes going out there. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised either. Chris Kirk is just one of those dudes that knows his game better than just about anybody on the PGA Tour. He's been out there for 15 years now. So I could definitely see him making a charge as well. He almost won. What was he in the playoff? He was in the playoff in Detroit when Pot Geider won.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then he was like top 3 2 weeks ago. So he's playing some good golf right now. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him vault himself up to the top 50 and then the top 30 the next 2 weeks for sure.
100%.
Well, let's finish this Wednesday pod up with our favorite segment of WTF Wednesday. I'll start it off. Obviously, I talked about the hand, foot, and mouth scenario with the kiddo. It's just kind of a reading more into it. I didn't WebMD it, which is what the adults say now. The kids don't know what that is. Probably just AI. Ask AI what's going on. I didn't really want to do that because that gets in a rabbit hole with stuff. But my what the fuck Wednesday is, dude, I've been getting, between me and my wife, we've been getting an insane amount of parking and speeding tickets. And none of them we've gotten actually pulled over. And what I didn't know,
gotcha.
The cameras keep getting me. We paid like $350, $400 in parking and speeding tickets up in Greeley, early July. We got one for that. Just going I was going 71 and a 45 and just on some random side county road, apparently. That felt like a highway. So, life is not a highway. I'm not riding it all night long, apparently. And then I got a ticket for my car that I sold, my Jeep, because I didn't renew the tags on it because I was selling it. I was like, I'm not going to pay all this money, renew the tags, and then just sell it. So I got a parking ticket. And I was like, I walked up to the car after work one day and I was like fuming. I was like, this has to be fucking wrong. This is a parking ticket. This says street sweeping every Tuesday and Wednesday, or every third Tuesday. Today's a fucking Wednesday. And then I realized they can give you a parking ticket for having expired plates on the street. And I didn't get to park in my parking lot at work, which would have saved me that day because they can't go into your work parking lot and give you a ticket. It's just if you're on the street. And I got a fucking $100 ticket for that. I'm like, well, that's fun. So yeah, there was like a list, like a laundry list of these receipts on the counter that I just finally got pissed off enough one day and went and paid all of them. I don't even know if you have to pay them, but I don't need any like warrants out for not paying a expired tag parking ticket. I'm just gonna pay it, move on.
Well, and I will tell you this. Do you know that you wait, do you get credit if you sell I think you get credit if you register a car and then sell it immediately after. You basically get all that money back.
Yeah, I know. I just didn't want to deal with the DMV and the whole scenario that I dealt with trying to just sell that car was enough of a disaster that I was like, I'll just pay this parking ticket and move on.
Yeah, needless to say, you won't be owning any more rental cars anytime soon, fucking dipshit. My what the fuck Wednesday is I was going to Home Depot. So first of all, our septic didn't back up, but we had a little bit of a plumbing issue. Let's put it that way. And just at the least opportune time, I was trying to get out the door to go to training camp. I have a toilet overflowing. I'm fucking 2 paper towel rolls deep, mopping all this shit. Missy has no idea. She's upstairs working. I'm in the trenches, fucking walking around in water. I was like, ugh, fucking gross shit. But anywho, I'm going to Home Depot to try to buy a snake, to snake our plumbing, and not buy a snake, rent a snake. And I'm sitting on the at the intersection of Colorado, getting onto I-25, taking that left, and I'm behind this one car, and there is an unhoused man on the median looking for a few dollar bills. And this car in front of me, this Suburban, the light turns green, like 10 cars go. He's sitting there. I'm laying on my horn, fucking sits through the fucking red light. Oh yeah, I'm laying on it. And this dude is just lights are on, nobody's home type of shit, sitting at the light. And the homeless guy walks over and knocks on the window and wakes this guy up. This guy fell asleep at the stoplight. And so thank God for that homeless guy. Otherwise, this guy could have been taking an hour-long fucking nap in the turning lane, getting onto I-25. So the homeless guy like knocks on his window, wakes him up, gives him a wave. And this guy had like a sign that had like a song on it. Like he's one of those whimsical homeless people that like it seems to find positivity in everything, which I totally respect. But he actually did me a service. So I fucking waved that dude down. I was like, did you wake him up? And he goes, yeah, I did. And I handed him a $10 bill. I was like, that's a fucking service I can get behind. And then sadly enough, my brain immediately went to, is this shit a hustle? Like, did this guy do this on purpose so this guy could go over and actually do everyone a favor sitting there in order to get money? Like that's some kind of jaded ass shit.
Then you get all 10 of those cars, just walk back and like, hey, you're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah, that is the jaded ass shit that goes through my mind where I'm like, did this guy just hustle me into giving him money because he woke the guy up that passed out at the wheel in front of me? And it was just a big clusterfuck. But I was just shocked. I'm like, sure, you don't see a light turn green for a second, but we just sat there for a good 10 seconds. Guy's just fucking taking a nap on the road. So that was just threw another inconvenience into my very inconvenient and literally shitty afternoon that day.
Well, speaking of real quick tidbit, speaking of falling asleep in cars, yesterday my son fell asleep in the car as we were driving home from this home inspection we were getting, and he fell asleep with his Arby's fries in his lap, and he was just going to town on these things. And then when I woke him up, because I woke him up when we got home and I was going to take him back in to go nap, you know how when you wake up, you kind of like can't get, you just don't, he just wakes up and he goes, fries. It was cracking me up. I was like, no fries, dude. They've been in the car for about an hour now. You just want to go take a nap. And then he just was,
It's like when you it's like when you hold like meat in front of a dog's face while it's sleeping and it just fucking wakes up because it smells the food. I would 100% do that shit.
Yeah, he's like, fries. I was like, no fries, buddy.
What a great life he lives. Fucking, I was saying this, and it's kind of similar to you. You like eat and then you go to sleep and then you wake up, you crap your pants, and then you eat again. Like, it's just, is there a better life than that?
No, it's an elite life for a toddler. Well, that wraps it up for us on this Wednesday. We appreciate you tuning into Big Drive Energy, part of the Golfer Gang Network. Make sure you follow us on all the socials. Give this video a thumbs up if you're watching on the YouTube. Helps us out a ton. We will be live Sunday afternoon, St. Jude, FedEx St. Jude Classic, Memphis, Tennessee. Hopefully we got an intense one coming down the stretch. We'll be live reacting to that. And talking it out with all of you guys, see who moves on to the top 50, see which names are left out of the BMW. Going to be a real fun 3 weeks on the PGA Tour. Make sure you're tuned into Big Drive Energy for all that content. We appreciate you all. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the FedEx Cup playoffs because we know we will. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you on Sunday. Peace.